guys, it's M4J here and welcome back to the M4J network here on OpenTTD. This is the sped up version of last week's stream as always, episode 69 it was last week, and I'm very glad that we're all adults in the chat and no one made a 69 joke. 69. Anyway, yes, we built the depot for the network central route last week. Using this new design, you'll see it going up on the screen right here. Overall, I think it's okay. I don't know why my voice decided to go back to when I was 13 there. Overall, I think it was okay. I think it's a good design. I'm looking forward to stress testing it. I think that's where it's going to show or not whether it's working. My chair has decided to go into ultra creaky mode today as well, which is annoying because I've got a lot to get through. Slightly shorter video this week as well, you'd have noticed, because the stream itself wasn't as long. For the past couple of weeks, it's been like a 2-hour stream, or an hour and a half plus. This week it was only an hour and 21. I think, what was I had some commitment that I had to get to, which is one of the reasons why the stream ended a little bit early. Plus the chat was a little bit on the quiet side, which again, I know I moan a lot about the chat being quiet, but if it's a quiet chat, it doesn't ruin the experience as such. But I kind of sit there and think, what's the point of it being a stream if I'm just talking to myself for 2 hours? I might as well just do that as a video instead. So I'm not complaining too much. There will still be a stream this week, don't get me wrong, but it's something to address before it becomes an issue, I suppose. Anyway, I have a few things to talk about today, mostly to do with rail news. It is the start of a brand new month. This is technically the first episode of the month of... Actually, no, it's not. It's the second episode of the month of September, because last week was the premiere. Which again, it was a little bit quiet, but I did kind of spring that on you guys. I did a City Skyline stream premiere, yesterday, which was a lot more active. So I think that's a lesson learned. Don't sneak up on you guys with a premiere. Actually, let you guys know beforehand. Right. Here's my point that I want to make today. I've been criticised in the past for criticising announcements about future rail links that could potentially be constructed. And the reason I get criticised is because I ask the same question all the time, which is, can we trust it? If the rail minister, or no, isn't a rail minister, sorry, if the transport minister comes out and says we're going to pledge £200 billion to rebuilding 26,000 rail miles around the UK, and as soon as I hear that, I just think, no, you're not. You're going to tell us you are, because there'll be some kind of a political process on the horizon, like maybe an election or something like that. But we all know really half of that won't get built, and that's been my opinion for a long time. Since 2010, that's been my opinion. Won't get too much into politics because we know how I feel about politics on the channel. But 2010, I was just about to start university, and I voted for a party who promised that they would cut student fees, and then my student fees went up by £5,000 by the time I actually started university. So don't always believe what you're told, is what I'm saying. And certainly, if you read about it in a newspaper or on an online article, don't just read it and take it as the truth. Do some investigating yourself, do some digging yourself, and you'll quickly find out the truth. Here's why I have that opinion. I got my rail magazine this month, and I open up the first page, and it's the editor's comment on page 1, and it's thoughts about stuff that's happened in the past month. So, for example, there's a large section about the Stonehaven accident, and again, horrible thing that happened. Hopefully, it never happens again. There's also a section down the bottom about rail fare increases, which I think at the moment we're trying to encourage people to use rail again, and that's the worst way to do it. It's a 1.6% increase in January 2021 has been mooted. I personally think fares should be cut slightly, but that's a whole other argument for a whole other video. It's this section in the middle here that intrigued me, because I wasn't going in looking for this, but I did come out finding this. So it starts off by saying, looking back 20 years to the Railway Magazine of September 2000, there is a story about a £60 billion investment in Britain's railways. Within the story is a list of 30 major projects, such as reinstating the Cambridge to Oxford rail link, which we now know as the Varsity Line. Well, it was always known as the Varsity Line. Tram networks for Newcastle, Bristol and Leeds. Now, to any of you who think you've slipped into a black hole and perhaps forgotten the last 10 years, there are no rail links, there are no tram networks in Newcastle, Bristol or Leeds. Did I say Newcastle weird there? I think I did. The Croxley rail link, remember that? The Metropolitan line was going to be extended to Watford, and then that didn't happen. Or Watford Junction. Again, I need to be more specific. And a new east-west rail line through the central London. along with the possibility of reopening the Matlock to Buxton route. Out of all of those, only 2 of them actually exist now. One of which is Crossrail, the east to west link across central London, and the other one is the rebuilding of the Varsity line, he says as he knocks his bottle on the floor. And even then, the Varsity line has only just been given the go-ahead, east-west rail, and it's already slow. I know it's being built, I don't think it's behind schedule or anything, but it just feels like it's dragged on for a long time. And a lot of people, no one's directly called me a cynic, but I know I'm being cynical a lot of the time when people say there's a, you know, this is happening, this is happening, this is happening, and I just sit there and go, oh really, is it? And now you know why. Because I'm old enough to remember the year 2000. We all thought we were going to die because of computer viruses. The Millennium Dome was built, the Millennium Bridge was built, and then closed, and then rebuilt, and then opened again. The London Eye was built. And these rail links, I mean, Thameslink was supposed to be completed. It was called Thameslink 2000 back in the day. That wasn't done. There's so many projects that could have been done back in the year 2000 that weren't, because there was apparently no need to do them. And now they're twice as expensive at least. High Speed 2 I don't add to that list, because High Speed 2 is quite a recent thing. But Crossrail, for example, the networkers, there was going to be a new fleet of networkers that were going to operate Crossrail. So that goes to show how old that project originally was. In fact, Victorian times, they were talking about Crossrail. They were also talking about a channel tunnel back then as well. And that took 100 years almost to build. Crossrail, it's been almost 200 years. In fact, it probably will be 200 years by the time the damn thing opens. But my point is this. We've had some very successful rail projects in the UK over the last 10 to 20 years. The Borders line has been given as a very good example here. And in fact, they are now considering extending the Borders line right the way down to Carlisle. Proves how good the original reopening has gone. Or how well the original reopening has gone. Again, words are not my forte today. I need to expand my lexicon. Maybe if I use long meaningless words, I might be able to find my mojo again. But yeah, the point I'm trying to make is this. Just because the government have said that they're going to do these projects, and just because millions of pounds have already been spent investigating the possibility of rebuilding these lines, does not equate to these lines being rebuilt. And before anyone starts hammering their keyboard with the words yes but, I just want you to remember the fact that 20 years ago the Croxley Rail Link was first suggested. 20 years ago. And it was only, what, 3 years ago now? 4 years ago that it was finally announced and then very quickly cancelled afterwards. These things happen. Sometimes you have to accept it. Sometimes you have to maybe point fingers for a little bit as to why is it being cancelled. Was it ever really going to go ahead, or was it just something said to win us over, get us on side for a little bit? And again, that's the cynic in me. Sometimes people do say things to try and win favour. Sometimes they do genuinely say things with the intent to actually go ahead and do it, and then other things get in the way. I think the Croxley Rail Link is an example of that. It was genuinely going to happen, but then for various reasons it has now been cancelled. I hope it does get revived at some point, because it does seem a little weird that the Metropolitan line, it does still terminate in Watford, but in a really strange part of Watford, kind of out of the way of the main bulk of Watford, as it were. But yeah, that's kind of my... I'm really glad that I found this bit, actually, because it's kind of vindicated my arguments for the last couple of years, which is, I really want these things to happen, but until I'm on the train travelling on that track, I do not believe it's going to happen. And that's the distinguishing factor for me, is just because someone said they're going to do something doesn't mean necessarily they are in fact going to do it. I chose every word there to use in that sentence. So that's the kind of bulk of my points today. However, there are some other good bits of news, and I'm desperately trying to find them. The main one for me is, well, the part of the main one for me, and I mentioned this on the Discord a couple of weeks ago as well, is the Crossrail Adventurers, the 345s, have now started serving Heathrow Airport. Now, for me, that's a huge deal. It might not be on the surface, but when you think that one of the major issues with Crossrail right now is the testing phase, it's good to see that the signalling system that is used in the central tunnels has now been proved to work on the Heathrow branch. So the software on the trains is working. The ETCS system, ETCS, yeah, European Train Control System, it works. That's the main thing. It works. So it's kind of a test bed now for the rest of the core network. Obviously, they still need to test the infrastructure in the tunnels, so it's not like they found a sneaky shortcut or anything. But it is good to see that the system works, and eventually it will be tested on the rest of the core section, and then trains will start running. The tunnel boring machines for high-speed 2 have also been manufactured in Germany, one of which has been named Florence. Is that after Florence Nightingale? I think, yes. Florence Nightingale and Cecilia, in recognition of astronomer and astrophysicist Cecilia Payne, Gaboshkin. I really hope that's how you pronounce her name. I like the fact that we are recognising women in history as well, because that is something that's also been forgotten over time. I wasn't that keen on the fact that some of the boring machines for Crossrail were named after the wives of the Brunels. I think that was a little bit... I mean, it's good that they're being recognised, don't get me wrong, but also at the same time it's a little bit patronising. Like, you were married to a famous engineer, we're going to name a machine after you. I'm sure they had their own merits. In fact, I think Brunel's, Isambard, Kingdom Brunel's wife was, I think she was a nurse? I think she was a nurse. I might have completely made that up. I've probably made that up. I saw the phrase that I absolutely hate as well at the moment, which is Green Gauge 21. I don't know much about them, but I've had their name thrown at me so often lately, as if they're the second coming of Christ. You know, everything they say apparently is gold dust, and we should listen to it. And some of it is. Some of it is. The context here is they're talking about the eastern leg of High Speed 2 Phase 2B. And actually, I agree with what they say here, because in the past, the western leg has been deemed the more important of the two. But I've always argued that the eastern leg should be, because Glasgow is bigger than Edinburgh, but Edinburgh is the capital of Scotland. And the argument is a lot of the Edinburgh trains will actually use the West Coast Main Line. But my argument has been that the West Coast Main Line is the most congested rail route in Britain. Why would we add to it? Even if you take out some of the faster services once High Speed 2 opens, you still add back to it, which I think is weird. Also, the fact that the East Coast Main Line is going to be the first one in the UK conventional rail line to be transferred to a digital railway. It kind of makes sense to have more trains using the eastern side of the network, and that seems to be what Green Gauge 21 say as well. They like the idea for the Birmingham Totton to Yorkshire route being more critical than it is currently being given credit for. And I like that. I do like that. I think the East Coast Main Line is more suited for running high-speed capable trains, bearing in mind that the West Coast Main Line has to use special trains, special tilting trains, in order to be able to travel at 125 miles per hour. So there's food for thought. Most of the East Coast, particularly in the northern stretch, has been sort of designed with 140 mile per hour running in mind. And again, if the uppers at Network Rail pull their fingers out and actually start not just turning it into a digital railway, but also upgrading it to 140 mile per hour running, first of all, the IETs then have more of a use. Plus the 91s can also run at 140 miles per hour. They've been certified for that too, or at least they were designed to do it. I don't know if they've had official certification for that. But then high-speed trains on high-speed 2 can also then run at 140 miles per hour, and it increases capacity, it increases frequency, and overall I believe provides a better service. And that's what it's all about at the end of the day. It is about providing a better service. So that's pretty much it for the major rail news. There is also hybrid locomotives being delivered to the Snowdon Mountain Railway, which is the first time, it claims here, it's the first time that hybrid locos have been used on mountain railways, which, considering the amount of stress that mountain locos actually go through, that's quite an impressive feat. That kind of shows a big leap forward in terms of hybrid locomotive technology, so that's also good. There's a lovely article here about the understated Class 91s as well, which I haven't yet read. I'm looking forward to reading that, because I've always had a soft spot for the 91s. I think they look awesome, they sound awesome, they run really well. As I've said, they are very, very capable of travelling at 140 miles per hour, and I do believe in fact that a Class 91 still holds the world record for the fastest electric locomotive in the world. Not fastest electric train, but locomotive. I believe that still to be the case, although I would argue that the TGVs the original TGVs were locos as well, but maybe the train itself was classed as a multiple unit. I don't actually know how they did that, because I think the Eurostars, the 373s, are classed as electrical multiple units, even though technically they are locomotive hauled locos at each end. In terms of rolling stock news, driver training has begun for the Class 230s and 769s for Transport for Wales. So that is the converted D trains, D stock from the the District line. Duh, that's what the D stands for. In fact, the D stands for dumbass at the moment, apparently. And the converted 319s as well from Thameslink, respectively. There's also the first 769 to be converted for high-speed logistics operation, which actually is done by a company called Orion, and it's quite a nice livery. Actually, I quite like that. If you can find some photos of it online, do try and find them, because they do look kind of cool. The Stadler 745s have begun service on the Stansted Express. Again, I actually quite like those. I wish the Adventures looked more like the Stadler Kisses, because they're quite nice looking trains. And I have a bit of a soft spot for Stadler. I don't like the Adventures because everyone's ordered them and they don't work. That's basically, I have like a bias against Bombardier right now. Even though I do think Bombardier have done a lot for UK rail, at the same time I think they've also done a lot to prohibit the growth of UK rail, at least at the moment. Although, speaking of the Adventures, the Class 701s on South Western Railway have also begun testing. But I do like the Stadler trains. I think they're quite smart, especially the bimode ones. The way that the power pack is in a separate compartment in the centre of the train, which means there's no engines under the seats. So wherever you sit on the train, you should have a smooth, comfortable, quiet ride. Again, I think that's quite genius. Surprised no one's thought of it before, really. The APTs actually have that. They had their power cars were kind of in the middle, not at each end. That's why the ends could hold passengers. And there is some infrastructure news as well, I believe. Oops, I've gone past it apparently. Yeah, you'll have to excuse me as I thumb forward and backwards through my magazine here. But there was some good... Oh, that was the other thing I was going to say. There's a blue Pullman coming back to the network. It's a dedicated HST. They're changing out the headlamps so that they can actually paint the nose blue. I've seen some concept art for it. In fact, I'm looking at it right now. And, oh, I liked the blue Pullmans. I might even have, on the M4J network, a train in blue Pullman livery. The Pullmans themselves aren't in the game, so I'll have to use maybe an APT, customized APT or an HST, and have a blue Pullman. I think that would look awesome as well. Oh yes, this was the infrastructure stuff that I wanted to talk about. Two big things. I've got very little time to get through them, so I've got to be quite quick. First of all, the 5th platform at Stevenage is open. It is a year ahead of schedule. That is Network Rail doing things correctly. I think because of all the other upgrade work going on around the East Coast Main Line, I decided to bring this project forward. But the fact that it has opened so far ahead of schedule is very, very impressive indeed. On top of that, there is plans to build a new concourse raised above the platforms at Edinburgh Waverley Station. Part of the challenge for that, it'll be a new mezzanine level, and part of the challenge for that is what are they doing with the roof. The main proposal is to try and elevate it a little bit higher, to try and preserve it. I think it's an interesting concept. It will certainly improve circulation around the station, but it depends very much on what happens with the roof, because I believe it is a listed structure, so it will have to remain in one form or another, because I highly doubt they'll be allowed to just demolish it. And apart from that, the Midland Mainline electrification should be accelerated. It's one of 6 schemes currently being considered by Network Rail for accelerated delivery. I think that's a no-brainer personally. If they're going to be introducing the new bimode trains in the not too distant future, they kind of want as much of the route to be electrified as possible. I still don't necessarily think the whole route should be electrified, but I think more than is currently proposed should be electrified. Particularly if they're inheriting trains from other operators as well, electric trains, they might as well get the most out of them while they can, before they eventually replace them with either Adventurers or Hitachi trains, because that's what we seem to do over here at the moment. And yes, I'm being cynical again, because that is who I am. Besides all of that, I think that's pretty much everything for the major rail news. There's a lot of good stuff going on in the UK still, as well as all the rubbish that's going on too. I guess it's good to find the diamonds amongst the rough, and That's what I try to do, but at the same time it's good to ask questions about what is happening, why is it happening, and could it be done better. And I think that's where a lot of people mistake my cynicism for being just overtly negative, and I try not to be. I try to be more questioning rather than critical. But yeah, thanks for watching, guys. Don't forget to hit the like button if you enjoyed the video, and of course if you enjoyed the series, drop some comments down below with ideas for future episodes or any other rail news and topics you'd like to see me discuss. And besides all that, if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, be sure to hit the subscribe button. If you have already subscribed to the channel, thank you guys for your continued support, and until next time, I will see you soon.